What's good, Donald? What's really good? You was popping all that good a minute ago. Then what happened? You got indicted in New York. Oh, look at you. Indicted in New York. My word. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump has finally, good God Almighty, finally been indicted. It only took years and years and years and email campaigns and protests and attempted insurrections. It only took threats against prosecutors. It only took threats against jurors. It only took constant, publicly committed crimes. But finally, we have an indictment, one, and let us hope the first of many. Now, credit needs to be given where it is due, because the wicked audience called it. Wicked audience voted as to who they thought would be the first to indict Donald Trump and why, and you guys nailed it. It was indeed District Attorney Alvin Bragg in the terrific state of New York. Look, I realize that it's a somewhat bittersweet moment. To be absolutely clear, it is bittersweet. Sweet in that this effing guy had it coming, and there is finally justice in that regard. Or at least it appears that we are attempting to pursue justice. We'll see how it goes. But it's bitter in that nobody wants a president to have committed crimes. But don't let anyone try to spoil your fun. Tonight, although now it's the early morning, tomorrow, whatever. This should be a weekend of celebration because we've already processed the bitter part. We already swallowed the medicine. Now we get to enjoy our spoonful of sugar. I'm going to be very classy about how I handle this. And after I start sipping, we've got about 8 minutes before this takes effect. I made you a promise I was going to get blackout drunk with y'all. Now, as a little bit, let's start that timer. As a little bit of an explanation. As a little bit of an explanation, I was about an hour outside of East Palestine, Ohio. Thought I'd surprise you all with a little live from the scene, because family obligations took me to one part of Michigan and then all the way to Ohio to see my sweet laddie of a nephew. Not sure if I can show his picture. I have not asked my sister's permission, so probably not, but it's on my desk. I was hanging out with the laddie and thought I'd pop on over to East Palestine. And Donald Trump went and gave me the greatest gift I have ever received, which is his ass indicted. So I boogied on back here. Took some doing to reset up the computer, which was with me. But baby, we're here now. So consider this the first of several Friday streams, very few of which will be sober. Hmm. Hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see what Fox had to say about all this. Oh, it's going to be petty. I realize Saturday is the day for salt, but y'all, I got to get this out of my system. Well, very much into my system. But I got to get this out of my system before even attempting a Friday peace talks. Probably a good weekend for it. You know what? F it. We're going to do a vote. Let's look at Fox. I want to be salty right now. Oh, yeah.
All right, we're going to break in with this Fox News alert here. We have just gotten word former President Donald Trump has been indicted by a grand jury.
Wait a minute. Who was the what and who was the off screen there? I do wonder. Let's try that again. Let's listen to that.
All right, we're going to break in with this Fox News alert here. We have just gotten word former President Donald Trump has been indicted by a
What? This criminal is being treated like some kind of a criminal? Oh. Oh. I have a feeling that Jesse Waters, in particular, is delighted by this. In fact, look at that. Look at these faces. I realize they were just talking about some other thing.
All right,
look at these faces.
We're going to break.
I don't feel like that tone is going to change all that much. Let's find out.
With
Haven't
this
watched
Fox
this
News
yet.
alert here, we have just gotten word former President Donald Trump has been indicted by a grand jury in New York. Trump was under investigation by the DA's office for his alleged hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 campaign. So as we await more information, Fox News has just learned this from two law enforcement sources that Trump has been indicted. Perhaps I can go around the table. Katie, I'll start with you first.
Well, the president said 2 weeks ago that this was going to happen eventually. He thought it would happen last Tuesday. The grand jury then did not convene for 2 days in a row. And the grand jury was out of town, allegedly, for a month as of yesterday. So this is quite interesting to hear after they were sent home for the month. Now,
Try to spin it. Go ahead.
leading up to this, there was a lot of talk about whether this would even happen, considering Alvin Bragg, who is the Manhattan district attorney who is looking into bringing these charges, would be able to just.
A lot of talk from who? I didn't hear a lot of talk from Lawrence O'Donnell. I didn't hear a lot of talk from Knock 'em Out Pete. I didn't hear a lot of talk from Sam Cedar about whether or not this was in the cards. This pretty much seemed to be promised. The only people that I heard talk about whether or not it would happen from were the clowns on Fox, but maybe not. Maybe there were other folks, and they was dummies.
Given how long it's been since this incident, and it was allegedly a misdemeanor charge. It's never been happened in the history of the New York Attorney's Office before, and there's been a lot of controversy about whether it was appropriate given.
SS 1964 says, "'Bout time. Now get him for espionage and insurrection." Yes, sir. 100%. Yes, sir. Wholeheartedly agreed. Although, fun fact about this, if we're talking chronological order of the crimes, this is a fine way to get started. This was the crime that helped get him into office. I don't think it really matters what order you go in, other than worrying about the statute of limitations, I suppose. But For the history books anyway, fitting.
And the president is a presidential candidate again, and whether it was politically motivated as a result of this district attorney not having the authority to bring it. Also, of course, there are big questions about the district attorney's priority.
As a result of this, all right, I'll give her a fair shot. Maybe I misheard her before. Why would the district attorney, though, not have the authority? Makes no sense.
About whether it was appropriate, given the president is a presidential candidate again.
He declared super early for a reason. Most candidates don't declare 2 full years before the election, generally speaking.
And whether it was politically motivated as a result of this district attorney not having the authority to bring it. Also, of course, there are big questions about the district attorney's priorities when it comes to his obligations in New York to put hardened criminals who are carrying out very violent crimes in the city behind bars, when now.
That might have been the most telling phrasing I've ever heard. Listen to this.
Of course, there are big questions about the district attorney's priorities when it comes to his obligations in New York to put hardened criminals who are carrying out very violent crimes in the city behind bars, when now he is focused on President Trump. But here.
First of all, just to be clear, the district attorney is not supposed to be picking which crime he would rather go after. He's supposed to, in theory, be going after all crime that he can, because crime is supposed to meet the justice system in the United States of America. Rarely does if a rich person was involved, but it's supposed to. One interesting thing she said just now was an admission that Fox believes Donald Trump committed a crime. She's saying, oh, this guy's supposed to be going after hardened criminals, tough guys, blacks. It's Fox. That's what they're hinting at. But she's just saying he's not a hardened criminal. I agree. He looks doughy, sure. But he's a regular criminal. None of my opinions today can be held against me in a court of law. I don't know. Probably enough of that. That was a lot fast. Straw is more efficient than it looks.
We are with this. The president said it was going to happen. So now there are big questions about how this will go down, whether the president will come to New York to be fingerprinted, to take the charges in person, and what that will look like with Secret Service and NYPD, and whether there will be a mugshot and how that will be handled.
I think that's important to ask at this point, Jesse. We don't exactly know how this will go down, but we do know that the indictment would not be announced until it was stamped. The DA's office would then notify an attorney for the former president that he would then be indicted. At that point, the president is then free to make the information public himself. We are reporting this as we've learned it from 2 law enforcement officials. We'll see if we hear anything from the former president as the moments go on here. Will he be arrested? Would there be any sort of mugshot taken? Will he appear in court? Those are questions that we do not have answers to at this moment.
I cannot wait to have fun with the Donald Trump mugshot. Ooh, lordy loo.
It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And I feel bad
Why is
for the
that,
guy.
you a-hole? Why would that possibly be?
He
Let's
didn't
find
even
out.
really have to be president. He had a lot of money.
But the thing is, he wanted to make a lot more. I assume that's what he's going to say.
He had a great life, and he decided to run. He won. He got in. They took him down. And now they're trying to nickel and dime him for a private agreement he made with a woman.
So, nickel and dime him. I'm not hearing him say that Donald Trump didn't break the law. It's intriguing. It's almost as if they're in some sort of a court battle that resulted from lying specifically about Donald Trump. It's like they're being extra careful this time around. Maybe that's just me. Hey, here's a fun thing we can do. We can read some of the comments here and see maybe what Trump fans think. We have, says Chris D in Fox's comments, we have over 100 congressmen who have settled sexual assault charges out of court by paying money to their victims. We need to see their names and arrests. Sure. Yeah, go get them. I'm fine with that. Bill Clinton right now is cheesing so hard, says Marcos. This is insane that it's actually happening. I don't know what cheesing means. I don't give a about Bill Clinton. I'm delighted that Marcos is acknowledging that it's actually happening. And it wasn't like a life model decoy of Trump that they're going to arrest. David Jantz says, let's just stay in prayer, no violence. We've got people agreeing with him. God's Child, okay, also agrees with him. Investigations must be done. Ooh, interesting. This is something not right about all this. She, of course, means investigating the investigators, of course. Jesus. If someone had to be indicted, then it should be Biden. Why? What for? Hope you staying safe. Okay, AK says, at God's Child, there was an investigation. The evidence was then presented to a grand jury. Oh, some sanity. Look at that. Who voted to indict. Oh, we got all kinds of folks chiming in with let the justice system take its course. Love to see that in the Fox comments section. I'm sure they are visitors gloating, as I was as well. Living in reality, interesting. Hearing the other reporters in the background gasping, what is pretty hilarious. Yes, it was. Let's get some proper Trumpists. Thomas Gonzalez says if they want criminals held accountable, then they better fill the prisons with government employees. Yeah, if they broke the law. Yes, that's the idea. Letta Branch says, I bet a lot of politicians are sweating about now. It's going to be interesting finding out a lot of dirt on the high and mighties. Ooh, yes. Yes, it is. I'm not sure which side she came in on, but she's on our side now because I am 100% by that. I'm 100% for that particular assessment. I'm fine with investigating, yes, Democrats as well that broke the law or that appear to have. Oh, yes. They should subpoena the entire New York DA's office to appear before Congress and answer under oath, says Adrian Slater, who has a thumbnail of a Rob Zombie album cover. Okay, Billy Badass, here's the thing. You appear to be confident that Donald Trump did nothing wrong. That's what I'm assuming. I mean, you didn't say that, but that's what I'm assuming based off your desire to see the New York DA's office appear before Congress. Since I believe Trump did something wrong, I just wish there was like a place we could go where it was like illegal to lie. So it's illegal to lie, and we just lay out all the facts that, like, a government employee was paid to collect on the matter. And then we have just a group of regular folks decide whether or not he broke the law. If we could just figure out a place where we could do that. All right, let's get one more. Joy Hayhurst, for some reason, says, give us the names. We're going to do one more after this. It's just too wacky not to read. Give us the names of the ones who were involved on Epstein Island. Prosecute them. Sure. And then Kevin Cool says, I can't wait to get my mugshot t-shirt, and here's hoping to see okay. Wasn't going where I thought it was going. And here's hoping to see Bragg's head on a political lance. Okay, well, that was the first genuinely concerning comment. But boy, howdy, did I enjoy watching the suffering. Let's keep it going. I think we get it with Fox. They believe Trump is their God King, yada yada, and can do no wrong. Okay. Let's switch it over and have a look at somewhat more normal coverage. Let's look at MSNBC and I believe an interview with Mary Trump regarding the indictment. I do love Mary Trump's insights, not only because she's a savvy lady, but if you're unaware, she's the niece of Donald Trump. Doesn't care for him.
In our last segment, we had two members of Congress, and so we heard the high-minded preachment that we should get from members of Congress saying that there's nothing to celebrate tonight. Yeah. I have a feeling that there are millions of people watching this right now in a celebratory mood.
Yeah, I do want to say the thing to be sad about is that the crime was committed. The thing to celebrate is that after years, justice is actually being pursued. You should absolutely be celebrating. F it. We'll take another swig.
And Lawrence, that's fair. I absolutely think it's fair because we can feel both things at the same time. It's a dark day. This is historic. Nothing like this has ever happened before, although there are plenty of arguments that would say this should have happened a long time ago with other people in Donald's position. But it.
Mary Trump, are you flirting with me? Yes, it should have. Specifically, those people would be Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan. Oh, let's rattle them off. Richard Nixon for the Chenault affair and Watergate. Ronald Reagan for Iran-Contra. George H.W. Bush for the same thing. George W. Bush for lying about the Iraq War and thus committing us to 20 years of hell and killing over 7,000 Americans and literally an unknown number of Iraqis. We didn't even count. Yeah, it should have happened before. And that's why it's good to celebrate. And that's why I hope the Trumpers over in the Fox comments are right. If Barack Obama broke a law, I want him punished just like anybody else. I don't even actually like Barack Obama all that much. If Bernie Sanders broke a law, I want him punished just like anybody else. The wild thing that is very difficult for the Fox viewers to understand is that isn't a threat. They're threatening us with a good time. Because crazy as it may sound, what I'm actually after, and come here, Fox viewers. What I'm actually after is justice. Yeah. No ultimatum. What ultimatum? That doesn't make any sense. For the record, about 2.5 sheets to the wind. No ulterior motive. Literally, just the truth. And punishment if it has been earned under our laws.
It's not good for the country to have somebody at his level of power continuing to get away with things with such impunity. On the other hand, because he has gotten away with so much for so long, and so many of his victims will never see their day in court, I think it's absolutely understandable that some people would be feeling vindicated and, quite honestly, celebratory.
Yeah, I hate to be the one old enough to have to tell the audience that there was an awful lot of celebrating when Richard Nixon was forced to resign the presidency, and celebrate was the word for it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But let me get to what you think your uncle is feeling tonight.
I have to be honest, this is surreal for me. And it's not that I was convinced he would be indicted, but I absolutely believed, based on what we know, he certainly should be, not just in New York, but at least in New York.
I'm genuinely, though, interested in what she is about to say. And before she says it, I want to get this in there so that we share this moment together. Drunk Jake's a weird one. I apologize. This guy, Donald Trump, was friendly with Nixon. He benefited. He was one of the few who benefited from Reagan's gutting of the government. He saw Reagan get away with Iran-Contra. He saw Reagan have a fall guy for Iran-Contra in the form of Oliver North, who wasn't even punished all that much. He, Donald Trump, has done nothing but awful behavior his entire life, much of it illegal, and really hasn't suffered any consequences. So I'm curious. I am curious what his niece, who grew up watching this punk, is going to say he's thinking tonight, because I can only assume he's bewildered that the laws of physics apply to him, as do the laws of man.
So even so, I'm having a difficult time processing this. Donald, on the other hand, probably never believed in his wildest nightmares that such a day would come. And why should he have? This is somebody who has gotten away with pretty much everything for decades now. And he's never faced real accountability for any of it. And, much more serious crimes. From his racist rental practices back in the 70s and 80s.
Good morning, Andrew Woznicki. Full disclosure, I scurried back here from the far side of Ohio. I was near East Palestine attempting to do a journalism. Instead, it turned into this right chop. Baby, we're celebrating. It's still Thursday night to me. We're going to do a lot of streaming throughout the day. There will be about a 4 or 5 hour break while this processes in the worst possible way I can only imagine.
To all
Your old pal Jake used to drink. It ain't all that much.
sorts of shenanigans in Atlantic City, to, of course, the big lie, the insurrection of January 6th, and on and on. So I have no doubt in my mind that those quotes are accurate, that he's having
A little powdery, actually.
a very tough time grappling with any of this. And he may not actually believe it unless and until he's getting his mugshot and his fingerprints taken.
Did his father never teach him that there were legal tripwires all around the Trumps in the real estate business that they had to be careful of? More legal tripwires than the average person has in their lives, not in the real estate business in New York.
No, because in addition to having more legal tripwires, they also had more access to power and more access to people with power who were well connected that could make sure that they never suffered any legal consequences, starting with Roy Cohn. And now we're seeing that after having been convinced by his own father that he should never take responsibility for anything, he's never to blame for anything, Donald is in a position where he knows the difference between right and wrong. He just never in a million years thought it would apply to him.
That is fascinating. And that's, I think, a good way to put it. He knows enough about what is right and what is wrong in order to make up lies to pretend like he didn't do the wrong things. So he must have a knowledge then, if he's trying to avoid those landmines of what is and isn't right and wrong. But it's so interesting to hear that in his niece's, wow, there's a accidental theme today, his niece's opinion, he just would never consider that it would apply to him. And the frustrating thing until Thursday was that he was right. And he was mocking us with it. I'm genuinely elated right now.
You know, Mary, the reason I was absolutely certain that your uncle would never run for president, and I was right the first couple of times I said it, and then one time I was wrong, and he ran in 2015.
Yeah, that one time.
But the reason I was convinced he would not run for president is that he had to have, I believed, either enough brains of his own as a wise guy growing up in Queens, picking up a certain amount of street smarts with that, or he had at least one half-smart lawyer type around him or more in his business who could say to him, Donald, you have enough laws around your life right now. If you go into politics, you invite a whole other set of laws that are way more complicated than the laws you're living within now, like campaign finance laws, which is what he's apparently going to be accused of violating. He could have paid off Stormy Daniels and every porn star he ever met for the rest of his life legally if he just didn't get into politics. And I knew he led a life like that. So that's why I thought he wouldn't get into politics, because getting into politics would bring him eventually to a night like this.
Truly, if I'm being honest, and I was heckling Lawrence O'Donnell, so here comes the old hypocrite hat. If I'm being honest, I thought the same thing back in 2012, 2013, whenever there was rumors that he might do this or that. He had taken a swing at it before, and I just assumed it was an attempt to sell stakes. As always, the issue was giving him too much credit, assuming he was not possibly dumb enough to walk into that, like step on that particular rake. And yet, turning that around, how long and how much effort did it take to get this done? We had to elect an entire new district attorney. Alvin Bragg, by the way, has earned his place in the history books. But we had to have a change in management for the district attorney. Cy Vance apparently didn't have any interest in at least doing the investigation and setting it aside for someone, to my knowledge anyway. I do think that we should, at some point, after all of this, campaign to remove that opinion. It's just an opinion. It's not a law. It's an opinion that prevents us from indicting a sitting president. At the very least, we should include a rule that insists that an investigation take place. I don't care if it interferes with the business of government. We have an amendment for getting rid of a president who's unable to serve. If they're unable to serve because they're under so many investigations, okay, don't be scum. And yes, that would mean that corrupt officials could try to knock out a president by swarming them with investigations. But none of this works if it is used in bad faith. It is upon us, the people, to ensure it's used in good faith by doing things like protesting, writing emails, writing letters, making phone calls, and making sure, if we don't want to do all that bother, that we're electing honorable people to go about the business of government. What we should not have, as demonstrated by Donald Trump, is a rogue president that we can do nothing about. Because that, to me, is much more dangerous, because you only need one person then to be corrupt. You only need one person, and we had one. And the result of them being literally immune from punishment while they hold the office, the result is that our country is run into the ground like it was between 2016 and the end of 2020. That's the result. The result is Ukraine gets invaded. The result is 1 million Americans dead from COVID that maybe didn't have to die. A weak world response because America, who was supposed to be the leader, didn't lead. That's what you have with our current setup. And all it takes for that to happen is one corrupt person. Under the current way, our our justice system operates. It ain't right.
Yeah, well, he should have listened to you. And trust me, I'm sure people in my family who feel the same way you do and probably aren't too happy about the way things are unfolding. But I don't think Donald intended seriously to run just the first couple of times he did. It was a marketing ploy. But then he started gaining traction, and it isn't simple.
Okay, so I wasn't crazy. Also, to be fair, it is, in my time zone, literally 5 o'clock. Jesus.
That he was leading in the polls. He was leading in the polls not despite revelations about his racism and his misogyny, but because of them, which just added to his sense of invulnerability. So again, when you are told for your entire life that you can do whatever you want with no consequences, and that gets proven to you time and time again, why would he think otherwise? And let's face it, Donald is not the most agile thinker. He's pretty rigid, and nothing can challenge that sense of invulnerability, except perhaps a few indictments.
She's getting him in the breadbasket. Bam, bam. Mary Trump, good God. I don't think there is redeeming that name. It's like being John Hitler at this point. But, A for effort in trying.
Here's why I think this particular case is the perfectly appropriate one to go first, if there has to be a first in a sequence of criminal prosecutions of Donald Trump. Without the crimes committed in this case, there would be no Trump presidency. These were the crimes, according to federal prosecutors in their charging documents on Michael Cohen. These are the crimes that were committed in order to defraud voters, in effect, in the presidential election. These were the crimes that were committed, as the prosecutors put it, to affect a presidential election. The other crimes that he is in line now to be charged with were only committable after he won the presidency. These are the crimes that allowed him to win the Electoral College.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, Lawrence, because too many people have been talking about this case as if it's not a big deal, especially as contrasted to the case in Fulton County, Georgia, and Jack Smith's special counsel case into the January 6th insurrection and the allegedly stolen classified documents. This is a foundational case. He didn't just pay off Stormy Daniels to keep her quiet because it was embarrassing to him personally. As you just said, he did this to sway the results of an election.
I'm sorry to keep that picture of Trump up longer, but for God's sake, Stormy's going to do better filling the screen than me.
November 2016, the American people did not have all of the information they were entitled to before deciding for whom they wanted to vote. And that is the crime that has led to so many worse infractions against the American people, against the Constitution, and against our democracy.
The evidence against Donald is such that
I'm sure that I would have not liked Lawrence O'Donnell back when he was a politician. Just a hunch. But I've only really been aware of him as a newsman, or at least a talking head. And I love the man's style and his assessment of these situations. He and Mary Trump, there we go, here, hit the nail on the head. It is not just covering up an affair. I mean, that's at the core of what he did, but context matters. There's a difference between stabbing someone and surgery. Context matters. He covered up this affair in the waning days of the campaign for the 2016 election. After what was thought to be the absolutely disturbing Access Hollywood tapes. And I want to point out, Donald Trump did not win in a landslide. No matter how many times he says he did, he really didn't. To find out that piece of information, whether or not it actually would have changed things. At the time, it sure seemed like it would have. It was the junior version of things to come. A crime to affect a U.S. election. We cannot take that lightly. I'm glad we are apparently not. Waiting on the charges relating to the insurrection on 2021. Waiting on those charges. Let's see.
I can't see how he can expect to get close to a not guilty in this case without taking the stand himself to specifically refute Michael Cohen. I mean, the chronology of this is just one day.
I can't fathom how his lawyers will allow him to do that, even if that is literally the only thing that can save him in this case. No. If he talks, if he says words, well, it is illegal to lie. He is going to get in more trouble than he is in. He's not a good liar. The jury isn't going to be fooled by his lies. Everything Michael Cohen says will have been backed up by facts because Michael Cohen was himself convicted for being a liar. Alvin Bragg ain't a dummy. Find most prosecutors really aren't. So there's going to be evidence. And when Donald Trump says a lie, Alvin Bragg will say, here is the evidence. Donald Trump just lied under oath. He might get in trouble for crimes we didn't even know about. As he just spouts off lie after lie. Oh, I'm going to quit interrupting, but I cannot wait. God damn, this is going to be good. Might have developed more of a taste for this again.
October 28th, 2016, Cohen reportedly called Trump and updated him on the situation. This is the payoff situation with Stormy Daniels. The same day, Cohen and Stephanie Clifford, reportedly signed a contract that effectively promised Ms. Clifford money in exchange for not talking about the alleged affair with Donald Trump. So that's how Michael Cohen's going to testify. He's going to say on October 28th, 2016, a couple of weeks, less than 2 weeks before the presidential election, I told Donald Trump all about where we were, exactly where we were. He has previous conversations to that with Donald Trump. The only person who can refute Michael Cohen on this on the witness stand is Donald Trump. And we have all seen that he has no capacity, none, to tell the truth, even under oath.
And not only that, Lawrence, but there was a time when Donald had some self-restraint. He was able to get through a deposition basically by saying nothing. I don't remember, I don't recall, what have you. And we've seen in recent depositions, he can't do that anymore either. He's constantly trying to sell his own narrative. He's constantly trying to point out irrelevant facts or doubling down on the things he's accused of doing. So I do not see at all how, if he is in a position to counter Michael Cohen's evidence or anybody else's, that he will be able to do that without further incriminating himself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the legal box he's in right now, and his lawyers know they have an incredible danger in putting him on the stand under oath. He would get exposed to perjury charges because this case does ultimately come down to Donald Trump's word against other individuals in this case. And if he can't take the witness stand, there just doesn't seem to be a route to a not guilty without him taking the witness stand.
No, and again, for a crime that's already been proven, the person who helped Donald commit the crime was already convicted of the crime
and did time already.
That's another factor that
shit. He didn't only get convicted, he did time, was released from prison, and then was pulled out of his release by Donald Trump. Bizarre, man.
Donald's Republican enablers do not seem to be factoring in. Plus, of course, there is that need he seems to have to put himself out there, no matter how bad that might be for him. So it is going to be fascinating to see what happens. And I have to be honest, at the end of the day, and I'm not a lawyer, of course, but from everything we've seen, I don't think it matters one way or the other.
Dear God. I mean, what a treat. So, just a little preview of Friday Peace Talks. Honestly, I don't even know if... I like this enough. I think we probably will do it. So one thing about those comments, when we were reading the Fox comments, one thing that got me a little bit was how the agreed upon thing amongst the commenters that seemed to be pro-Trump was that Democrats are going to regret this, because this will open the door to investigations of Democrats. Good. Good. I think we have to be... Well, I think Democrats have become very willing to see the flaws and address the flaws in their candidates. I don't think there's really a problem with the Democratic Party booting people out and with Democratic voters supporting that. But I do find myself somewhat haunted by one aspect of this, which is that there are states that went from Obama to Trump. And yes, those probably weren't, by and large, the same voters. It was just a different motivated base. I still think that speaks to the same general issue. And the fact is, there also were voters who voted for Obama twice and then voted for Trump twice. Why is that? If you don't think that's significant, one of them was Ashley Babbitt, an Obama to Trump voter. Ashley Babbitt. She was willing to try to overturn the election. for Donald Trump. She was also willing to elect America's first black president. Is that what you hear in your head when you think Trump voter? I don't. Not what I would expect. But why? The question then is, what did both of these people appear to be offering? What were they selling that these people wanted to buy? I think it was change. Obama said, yes, we can. He literally had a big banner that said change, and it had his face on it, and oh boy. But then what did he deliver? He sided with the government against journalists. He did drone strike after drone strike after drone strike. He didn't pull us out of war. On the majority report yesterday, I heard them talking about this, and they said liberals, like true lefties, were willing to forgive Obama after his first term, and they would make an excuse like, well, yeah, he's got to get through the first term because he's got to get reelected, but then he's going to go get him. Second term, no different. Oh, but afterwards, after he's out of office, he's gonna spill. He's gonna say what it's really like, and he just didn't. What is he doing now? He's doing podcasts. He's doing TV shows, appearances, or whatever. I think he wrote a book. Neat. No change. The same neoliberal nonsense, as always. But then Trump comes along, and he says he's going to drain the swamp. And he has the balls to say, yeah, all these politicians, they're corrupt. Jeb Bush is just another Bush. F that guy. Hillary Clinton's just another Clinton. F her. I know she's corrupt because I bribed her, and she did what I wanted. That was the appeal. That these two very different politicians spoke to. That was the appeal. Change. The end of corruption. The end of everybody else getting bullied by a very small group of, let's be honest, our bosses. Americans are sick of it. And while I am sure that we're going to have problems from the most fanatical Trumpists, I don't believe that there is an appetite to let Trump get away with it, even amongst MAGA. Not when they see that he actually did it. Not when they see him flailing in court under oath. Not when they see him looking weak like he is, lying like he does, and being yet another corrupt American politician. I think that the whole country is going to get a taste for justice. I will be here, as will many others, offering a hand to those folks. If they want to grow up, get serious about fixing the country, I hope you will join me. I have no doubt that you will, as a matter of fact. I happen to think that the wicked audience is effing cool. And apparently quite bright because, as we said at the beginning, wicked audience, you correctly predicted who would be first to indict. It wasn't that obvious. It was not that obvious when we ran this poll. Well done. I hope you'll join me in converting those who are ready for it, those who are brave enough to get past the teasing, and those who share our interest in justice. And as a peace offering, as we're now mildly drunk on a Friday morning, technically making this a Friday Peace Talks, I guess, as a peace offering, I give you my word, MAGA, that if you can find a Democrat that broke the law, I will 100% support their indictment as well. But for now, there is a certain orange douchebag whose indictment I am going to continue celebrating. Folks, thank you for joining me on this stream. Ooh, Shannon Kalhoff says, I think there needs to be a left and right chart with the lies you have believed versus the truth you have denied. God damn, Shannon. I hope you'll join us on other streams. Genuinely. Consider subscribing because your old pal Jake would like to hear more from you. That's a graphic I think I want to make. It's a real good idea. And just list proven news and spin from what they have been watching and listening to. Hell yeah, Shannon. Excellent. I don't remember the pithy outro I was going to do. But I'll be back for another stream after I sleep off however much this is. We're going to polish this bad boy off Friday. Is too much fun, baby. Also, I'm fairly sure I can't monetize any of these streams and shouldn't have monetized the live stream. So, enjoy a commercial-free block of programming. This has been an ever so slightly tipsy WYCD Wicked. That stands for what you can do. My name's Jake. We got him, baby!